Well, when the VA found itself in the middle of a wait time scandal last year, the Department of Veteran Affairs and Congress made a few changes. Those changes included a new program called Veterans Choice, aimed at letting veterans see non-VA doctors closer to home.
But some veterans say they don't have a choice at all. AJ Legault is here with a KARE 11 News investigation. AJ?
Yeah, that $10 billion Veterans Choice program launched in November. To use it, veterans need to be stuck with a long appointment delay or live more than 40 miles from a VA facility. But when you add in government red tape, we discovered 40 doesn't always mean 40.
This is trazodone, and I can't sleep at nights because of the pain.
Paul Walker served in the United States Air Force.
That's more pain medicine. That's morphine.
Injured in an accident while serving, he's dealt with chronic pain for nearly 3 decades.
Oh, I'll keep praying.
But that pain pales in comparison to what he's living with now.
Since this cancer pain started, that's trumped that. It's a lot worse.
Pain so severe, Paul says he can't even clean his home.
I'm ashamed.
He spends most of his days in bed or on the couch.
Back in January 30th, I was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer, and I have a massive tumor on my liver the size of a baseball.
From Big Lake, Minnesota, where Paul calls home, it takes a trip of more than 50 miles by car to see an oncologist at the VA hospital in Minneapolis. Because of all the pain meds he's on, Paul's not allowed to drive. He thought he was a perfect candidate for the new VA Choice program he'd been reading and hearing about.
The Veterans Choice Program is one of the ways VA is trying to improve access to care.
This VA video makes it sound simple. You can qualify if
your current residence is more than 40 miles using a straight line distance from the closest VA healthcare facility.
But it's not so simple, as Paul found out when he actually tried applying, using the choice card Veterans Affairs sent him.
I tried using it, and I got flatly turned down.
That seemed hard to believe, since Paul lives more than 40 miles from the Minneapolis VA. So Paul called again while we watched.
I want to see about getting pre-authorization to get cancer treatment at a facility closer to me.
Again, he was denied.
I'm not eligible under mileage.
Why? Well, the Northwest Metro VA Clinic in Ramsey is only 20 miles from his home. But get this, Paul says they don't offer cancer treatment at the clinic.
But all they do is dental work there, and eye work, and some basic different, kinds of minor things. But I have cancer, stage 4. And
Paul's reasoning that the clinic near him doesn't offer the treatment he needs gets him nowhere.
This is not a facility that provides oncology or cancer care. Common sense should kick in somewhere here. I don't get a choice. I get to die.
Paul is not the only veteran questioning whether there's any real choice. The sound of reveille, courtesy of a flock of trumpeter swans, is music to the soul of retired Technical Sergeant Mark Gendron as he seeks relief from his PTSD, walking along his remote property overlooking the Crow Wing River.
And out here in the country where I am, you can actually talk to God and do it by yourself privately.
But sometimes he also needs to talk to a psychiatrist. It's nearly 70 miles to see a psychiatrist at the VA in St. Cloud, but there's a private one just 8 miles from Mark's home. An example of how Veterans Choice could work.
It connects you to timely and convenient access to health care in your community.
But Mark says he too was denied.
I don't feel it's fair at all.
Mark was turned down because he lives not that far from the Brainerd VA clinic. But they don't have a psychiatrist on staff to help with his PTSD.
Why would they give everybody a card and say that this health care is available outside the VA if you can't use it?
It's a question being asked by a lot of veterans. A survey last week by the VFW found 80% of those who thought they qualified for outside care were not afforded choice by the VA.
And I've been hearing this across the country.
Ben Kraus is a disabled vet himself and Twin Cities-based attorney focusing on veterans issues.
You had the lump in the abdomen, right, as I recall?
I've got the massive tumor.
He's representing Paul Walker and has harsh words for the choice program.
A bill of goods that they sold us.
Krause, in his blog, points to the fact the VA is now claiming since so few veterans are using it, the billions sitting there to fund Veterans Choice could have better uses.
And now they're trying to justify the fact that veterans aren't using this choice, there's really no choice at all, as a means to defund the entire program and move the money elsewhere.
Members of Congress are voicing similar concerns, claiming the VA is interpreting the 40-mile rule too narrowly.
Many veterans who should qualify for the choice program have been denied access by the VA.
Just last week, pushing the VA's top man for answers.
We are currently exploring options to review the 40-mile provision of the Choice Act to get more veterans the care that they want.
While Washington debates and the VA explores, veterans like Mark Gendron looking to the skies for internal peace, and Paul Walker
I enjoy life.
fighting for life itself,
I enjoy, seeing my kids.
are left with no choice at all.
I guess I'm a walking dead man.
The Minneapolis VA tells us 270 vets have been allowed to get care outside of the VA under the Choice program, but they also told us, quote, no veteran is turned down. They either meet the criteria, which is more than 40 miles from a VA facility or more than 30 days for an appointment, or they do not. As you just saw, some Minnesota veterans would argue that's not exactly the whole story. Randy and Julie.
Now to a continuing KARE 11 investigation. Veterans claim they're being denied the medical choice they were promised. Investigative reporter AJ Legault has an update to our report that's getting the attention of lawmakers in Washington and veterans from across Minnesota. Grateful too.
August 7th, 2014, the Commander-in-Chief addresses the growing VA scandal.
We've discovered some inexcusable misconduct.
And with much fanfare, signs the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act.
If you live more than 40 miles from a VA facility, or if VA doctors can't see you within a reasonable amount of time, you'll have the chance to see a doctor outside the VA system.
But 7 months later, our investigation found veterans like Paul Walker, who has stage 4 cancer and can't drive because of his pain medicine, being denied that promised choice.
I'm not eligible under mileage.
While the Minneapolis VA is more than 40 miles away by car, a VA outpatient clinic is much closer. They don't offer cancer treatment, but the VA still denied Paul permission to get treatment closer to home.
Song and a dance. So sad, so bad, can't do nothing.
Many other veterans have also been denied a use of the Choice program under the 40-mile rule because the VA has decided to measure the 40 miles as the crow flies and not actual driving miles.
Their current residence is more than 40 miles using a straight line distance from the
But
closest
look at
VA
the law President Obama signed. It says nothing about the 40 miles being in a straight line. That's just the way the VA has chosen to interpret it. An interpretation outraging veterans across the country.
And the VA has had a choice there. Do they want to interpret it in favor of the veteran, or do they want to favor the VA? And what we've seen so far is that the system is continuing to favor itself.
After we aired Paul's story, viewers flooded our Facebook page with similar accounts. Linda Tester-Lease writes, "Since when do people travel like a crow flies?" And Jensen writes about her father denied use of the Choice program because of a clinic near him that does not offer what he needs. She says, shame on those in charge of this program.
It's all propaganda. They aren't trying to help veterans out.
In the wake of our report on the Veterans Choice program, Minnesota Congressman Timothy Walz wrote this letter to VA Secretary Robert McDonnell urging him to take action. The congressman asked the VA look to provide a greater degree of flexibility in interpreting the 40-mile provision of the Choice Act and take into account if the veteran can actually receive the care he or she needs at the particular VA medical facility. We'll let you know if that action is taken. And if you'd like to read Congressman Walz's letter in its entirety, you can do so at KARE11.com.
It's great work, AJ. So frustrating, too, especially when they say, well, there's a clinic by you, but it doesn't provide the care that the veteran needs.
Yeah, it's driving veterans all across the country and all across Minnesota just crazy.
Just it seems like common sense has been left out of the equation.
Yeah.
But it does.
All right.
Thanks for the
Thanks,
update.
AJ.
Another update tonight, this one following a recent KARE 11 investigation. That investigation exposed veterans being denied access to private medical care promised to them under the Veterans Health Choice program. Today, the VA took action. Investigative reporter AJ Legault joins us tonight with the update. AJ?
Julie, we're not crows, we can't fly, and when we need to see a doctor, we take a car. That's the message veterans from all across the country have been sending to the KARE 11 investigative unit since we first started reporting on the Veterans Choice Program and how the VA was measuring veterans' travel distances using as the crow flies mileage. Today, the VA swapped out that measuring stick.
I'm not eligible under mileage.
That's Air Force veteran Paul Walker, who's dying of liver cancer, being told he's not eligible through the Veterans Choice Program for cancer treatment closer to his Big Lake, Minnesota home.
I tried using it and I got flatly turned down.
Veterans like Paul and Mark Gendron, who have to drive long distances to get to a VA hospital, have been finding themselves left out in the cold by the Choice Program that was part of the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act signed last August by President Obama.
Why would they give everybody a card and say that this health care is available outside the VA if you can't use it?
In the wake of our investigation, Congressman Tim Walz and Senator Al Franken fired off letters to VA Secretary Robert McDonald, citing KARE 11's report and calling for changes. Just last night, Jon Stewart's The Daily Show harpooned the VA over the Choice Program. Paul Walker thought he was a perfect candidate for the new VA Choice Program.
Unless the next part of that sentence is, and it turned out he was.
Playing clips from our report.
But I have cancer.
Wouldn't happen to be tooth cancer, would it? We're just, come on, what's the deal, VA?
Today in a Senate hearing, the VA announced it was changing the way they measure the 40-mile rule.
We're going to change the distance criteria from straight line to travel distance.
The rule change announced today commendably relies on common sense rather than flying crows in assessing the real-life consequences to veterans.
It's progress. It's a
While disabled veteran and Minnesota attorney Ben Krause applauds the change,
we're not a crow, and frankly, we're glad in this instance that the crow's finally dead.
he and other veterans believe more changes to the program are still needed. For example, Paul Walker still won't be able to get the cancer treatment he needs. While the Minneapolis VA is more than 40 miles away by car, the VA outpatient clinic in Ramsey is much closer. They don't offer cancer treatment, but the VA still claims that nearby clinic exempts Paul from the Choice Program.
You can't get health care at a particular facility, that it shouldn't count.
Lawmakers at today's hearing seem to agree and promised quick action.
So if there is a legislative impediment, let's fix it. Let's get it done, because our intent is to see to it the veterans get the service.
Yes.
The VA claims today's change to the 40-mile rule will roughly double the number of veterans eligible for the Choice Program, as well as double the estimated $10 billion price tag. Both Senator Franken and Congressman Walz issued statements today about the VA changes. You can read those at KARE11.com. Julie.
Well, last month, the KARE 11 investigation exposed major problems with the Veterans Choice Program that left many veterans feeling they have no choice at all. Well, tonight, a Minnesota congressman vows that changes will continue to be made in order to reduce delays and provide medical care for veterans close to their homes. A.J. Legault joins us tonight with his continuing coverage.
Randy, while the VA has agreed to stop using as the crow flies measurements to judge the distances a veteran has to travel to get medical care and instead measure by actual driving distance, they're still forcing veterans to sometimes travel hundreds of miles because the nearest VA facility doesn't provide the care they need. We sat down with Minnesota Congressman Tim Walz to talk Veterans Choice.
These are the things that make people frustrated with government, frustrated with the VA, that it makes no logical sense.
Even more than measuring travel as the crow flies, what Congressman Walz finds illogical is using a medical facility incapable of providing the care a veteran needs to deny that veteran access to the Choice Card program.
A clinic that doesn't provide those services, why would that be counted as disallowing you to use the Choice Card?
But that's exactly what our investigation found happening to Minnesota veterans.
I got this card, but I can't use it. Why?
Mark Gendron deals with PTSD. It's nearly 70 miles to see a VA psychiatrist in St. Cloud. But Mark was denied use of the Choice Program because he lives within 40 miles of the Brainerd VA clinic, a clinic that does not offer psychiatric care.
To me, it seems like they are trying to find more ways or reasons to not make you eligible instead of allowing you to be eligible.
The VA claims that's the rule Congress signed into law. But members of Congress, including Representative Walz, who sits on the House VA committee, says the VA has the leeway to interpret the law differently.
It makes absolutely no sense that we would mean 40 miles if that clinic that's within 40 miles doesn't provide, say, psychiatric or audiology services. Why should then you be stuck at that clinic? It doesn't provide what you need.
That's the very question veterans like Mark have been asking for months. If the VA refuses to fix the hole in the program administratively,
I'm a bit critical that they're going to do this.
Walz says on this issue, a sharply divided Congress sees eye to eye and will make a legislative change.
The desire to come back and do this as quickly as possible is strong.
Bipartisan?
Bipartisan. Bipartisan.
The Senate, as part of its budget resolution, just voted 100-0 to pass a non-binding amendment to let veterans living within 40 miles of a VA clinic with limited medical services be eligible for the Veterans Choice Program. Representative Walz says look for Congress to take quick action when it returns from recess in about a week and a half.
All right. Thank you, AJ. Finally, some common sense in that story.